Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of the International Solar Alliance, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the curtain raiser of the first International Solar Festival. We are delighted and honored to have you all here with us this evening. First and foremost, I would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to the diplomatic community, our member and signatory countries, for their continuous support. Your commitment to advancing solar energy has been instrumental in our shared vision. At ISA, we are dedicated to advancing solar power adoption worldwide as a solution for climate change. As a global intergovernmental organization, we serve as a platform for international cooperation, assisting our member countries with policy advice, standardization, and investment mobilization. We enable business models that promote affordable solar solutions and provide access to solar training, data, especially in least developed countries and small island developing states. ISA is taking various activities to enable a just and equitable clean energy transition. As you are aware, access to energy in the remotest part of the world, especially in the global south, continues to be a pressing challenge. ISA's persistent endeavor is to enable access, projects, financing, and partnerships. ISA is helping establish solar projects of 9.5 gigawatt in member countries and has provided training through its capacity building initiatives. We are establishing demonstration projects with direct socio-economic and developmental benefits, including the solarization of public infrastructure and sectoral solar applications. Recognizing the need for enabling finance, we have initiated a global solar facility which aims to de-risk long-term investments in renewables to attract private sector participation, particularly towards the least developed economies, especially in Africa. In striving for a sustainable, inclusive, and just energy transition that leaves no one behind, ISA is committed to increasing clean energy access through solar in underserved regions of the world. Our work will continue to focus on providing access to electricity for the approximately 680 million people worldwide who currently lack it. This will not only enhance energy security, but also generate benefits across jobs and livelihoods, gender equity, reduced emissions, and energy independence. Today, we gather not just to celebrate our achievements, but to set the stage for an even brighter future. As the world pursues ambitious sustainability goals, renewable energy, particularly solar power, stands out as a vital solution for enhancing energy security and combating climate change. The upcoming International Solar Festival aims to unite youth, communities, the private sector, and leaders from around the globe. This vibrant platform will promote solar energy adoption and facilitate the transition to a low-carbon future. Before we move forward, we would like to also express our deepest appreciation to the ISA's President's Office, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and the Ministry of External Affairs of the Government of India for their unwavering support and guidance. I would also like to thank our esteemed partners, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Children's Investment Fund Foundation, Global Energy Alliance of People and Planet, the World Bank, and the Asian Development Bank. Your collaboration and support have been vital in driving our initiatives forward. Now, to introduce you to the festival, the idea behind it, and why we must come together to celebrate solar, I am delighted to invite the Director General of the International Solar Alliance, Dr. Ajay Mathur, to deliver the inaugural address. Sir.
Excellencies and friends of many years and friends of today. First of all, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. It's a great honor to welcome all of you here. I particularly want to thank Mr. Bhalla for agreeing to deliver the inaugural address. I want to thank Mr. Shyam Saran, Dr. Ashok, and many others, Mr. Yadav here, and Freddie. I look around and I see a huge number of friends. Thank you all very, very much. We are gathered here at a pivotal moment in history when the world grapples with climate change as it is happening. You only have to walk out to into the world and feel the heat and feel the change that is happening year on year and actually day on day. But at the same time, the opportunity is also never been ever more profound. We are now at the cusp where solar energy provides us with the opportunity to be cost effective in almost every single application that we can think about. Whether it is providing electricity round the clock, whether it is providing electricity to people who have never had electricity before, whether it is about providing electricity through solar for running solar pumps, whether it is running a cold storage. In all of these, we can see that solar has the potential to provide electricity and energy to a huge number of unserved and underserved communities. It has the potential to create jobs, stimulate local economies, and reduce the imports of energy while reducing carbon emissions. We at the ISA believe that every home, no matter how far away, will have a light. That drives us to ensure that in each home in the world, there is a light tomorrow. We are at a time when we realize that the journey is long, but we also realize that we now have a lot of success stories as well. It is precisely to, on the one hand, ensure that we understand the journey is long, but that there are success stories that can be celebrated and replicated, that we are delighted to welcome you, to introduce you to the Solar Festival, which we will have here in Delhi on the 5th and 6th of September 2024. In particular, we want to bring together 4 communities who we believe are central to the large-scale use of solar energy. And by large-scale use, I mean that it is not only driven by government policies, but is also taken up because people see it in their interests. Whether I talk of the youth who have been instrumental in bringing about technological change or economic change wherever it has happened in the world. They were the first people who adopted, for example, cell phones. We hope that they will be the first to adopt solar technologies. We hope that they will, as more and more of them focus on startups, we hope that they are the people who will push to adopt solar startups in the years to come. They will be the beneficiaries of the green jobs that are created, and that will empower them in the long-term post-energy transition future. The second group, the first is youth, the second group is women. You know, more than any other energy source of the past, solar is a source that is providing incomes to women. They're obviously users of the energy, but they're also prime people in its adoption. Why do I say so? Across the world, what we see is that when solar startups are created, a predominant number of them. You know, we counted in a group of 180, there were 97 women entrepreneurs. This to me is a revelation of the power that solar holds in making this a energy source which provides incomes in the future, which helps create the change that we are looking for in the years to come. We believe that solar advocacy, centered around affordability and decentralization, is a significant factor in enhancing the lives of women, and we have therefore launched a new Solar for She program in the International Solar Alliance as well. The third group is all of them and somebody else together. That's us men, and that's communities. What we find is communities are essential to enabling solar to be adopted. I would particularly point out that every, and bar none, every solar mini grid that has been successful in this country or in any part of the world, the success has been driven because of the acceptance of the technology, of the kinds of opportunities that it provides by the community at large. We have, over the past 3 years, launched 21 demonstration plants, solar plants, looking at solar water pumps, looking at solar cold storages, at solar mini grids, solar in schools, solar for health facilities, all these kinds of things, and have learned that the person who benefits, or the organization that benefits most, is the community around. It is these communities we wish to both celebrate as well as provide them with the information that is needed in order to adopt it in a manner that brings real value to them. And the last but not least is the private sector. Because the private sector is obviously the one who manufactures the solars, but it's also the one who installs them, who runs them, who is responsible for making it upscaled, so that at a large scale you can see it happen. But the private sector does not exist in a vacuum. We need to ensure that we can provide them with the manpower that it takes. We need to ensure that we provide them with the money that it takes, the financial resources that it takes. We need to ensure that we provide them with the policies that it needs to take for the private sector to become a big and growing partner in enabling large-scale solar to take off. We believe that the private sector is advancing the benefits of solar energy across the value chain. We want to bring these various actors together with the governments who provide the public policy within which this upscaling occurs. On the 5th and 6th of September, when we will celebrate the International Solar Festival, which would be a conduit for things like universal energy access, providing electricity to people who never had it, for uplifting people and communities, for providing a means of uplifting the lives of women and youth. The Solar Festival would also globalize solar energy benefits to large audiences beyond governments, and including these various stakeholders I spoke about, whether it's business, whether it's youth, whether it's women, whether it's communities. And for this, achieve the kind of support particularly from all of them, in order for a large-scale large-scale replication to occur. I take this moment to again thank, Nikhil already thanked them, but I want to again add my thanks to our partners, SIF, Bloomberg, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, the World Bank and ADB for all their support. We would continue to need their support as we take this initiative forward. I also want to thank each and every one of you for supporting our vision of energy equity, growth, and resilience through a variety of meaningful ways, and especially with the focus being on solar energy. Together, we can light the way forward towards a better future, and powered by clean, accessible, and abundant solar energy for all. I welcome you all here today, but more importantly, I look forward to welcoming you at the Solar Festival on the 5th and 6th of September next. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite our esteemed dignitaries to join us on the stage for the launch of the Solar Festival logo. Shri Bhupinder Singh Bhalla, Secretary, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India. Saina Nehwal, Olympian, former world #1 badminton player, and Padma Bhushan awardee. Ms. Arushi Sana, youth climate influencer and official ambassador of the COP28 UAE. Could you kindly come on the stage, please? Dr. Mathur, if you could also join us. Can you play the video?
The sun has been our constant source.
Just click it and the video will play it.
The sun has been our constant source of energy and life. Unleashing its power will ignite a more vibrant, sustainable future. The International Solar Alliance is an intergovernmental organization dedicated to advancing solar energy as a pivotal climate solution through global advocacy and outreach. We seek to unlock significant solar investments by 2030 for the Global South and our member countries. We are solarizing the world, bringing progress to 55 countries, and helping people access uninterrupted electricity across our member countries. We are combating climate change, fueling innovation, revolutionizing agriculture, and building solar expertise. We are empowering gender equality in the solar sector, and inspiring youth to innovate solar solutions and join the green workforce. We are enabling the private sector to support local economies and communities. To celebrate the global solar success story, we invite you to the first ever International Solar Festival. Join us in the heart of India. New Delhi awaits the International Solar Festival 2024. Join the movement for a brighter, sustainable future, powered by the sun. The first International Solar Festival 2024.
Thank you. Now it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker of the evening, Mr. Bhupinder Singh Bhalla, Secretary of the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India. Mr. Bhalla, in his 34 years with the IAS, has worked in multiple sectors such as commerce and industry, urban development, personal and general administration, health, economic affairs, finance, elections, communications, and information technology. He has been a stalwart in driving India's renewable energy initiatives and has led its storied rise in solar adoption. Most recently, he is driving solar rooftop adoption across the country. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bhalla. Sir.
Dr. Ajay Mathur, DG ISA, all the esteemed guests present on the occasion, the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm very happy to see a full hall here for this curtain raiser for the International Solar Festival. And in fact, this is the first ever solar festival being organized by the ISA. I'm very happy to see a big crowd here to see, at least to understand what we are planning to do. Thank you, Dr. Mathur, for outlining the main aspects of what we propose to do in the International Solar Festival. Your presence here also signifies your commitment to sustainability, and that's another thing that we would like to highlight here. India, as a global climate leader, has been emphasizing the need for a pragmatic, affordable, and sustainable solutions that meet the unique development needs and context of nations around the world. Under the visionary leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, India aims to install at least 500 gigawatt of non-fossil electricity capacity by 2030, of which, and if you look at the entire 500 that we're talking about, nuclear, which is a clean energy, is going to be a very small component. So essentially about 485 gigawatt or so would be renewables. And among the renewables, solar is going to play the biggest role. Out of 485 that we've estimated, which we are likely to achieve, 300 is targeted to be solar. And that's a huge jump. I mean, I must tell you that 10 years ago, we were only about 2.5 to 3 gigawatt of solar. This year, right now, we are more than 85. And that shows, we've risen more than 25 times in the last 10 years. And again, we are only a fraction of what we propose to do, where actually we have to almost quadruple in the next 6 years. And that shows the kind of growth which is possible, the kind of confidence we have of taking it forward in India. And worldwide, I think, while wind energy has been a mainstay in many countries around the world, solar has taken off, I think, much more in the last decade, essentially because of several reasons. And and a host of factors have led us to today, where we know that solar is the future of energy. And therefore, I'm very happy that International Solar Alliance, which India has co-founded, has been spearheading this effort, at least in the areas where the systems have not come up. The people deserve it, but somehow the framework is not yet in place for solar energy to brighten up the world. And that's where I think lies the key of how ISA can contribute to this, to at least those regions of the world. Today, for large-scale energy generation and empowering rural communities, solar is playing the biggest role. And essentially, by incentivizing and promoting deployment of solar plants, both grid connected and off grid. Grid connected are the ones which are connected to the grid, off grid are the ones which are with battery and need not be connected at all, but you still use them. A strong policy emphasis and the support of the private sector has enabled us to bring clean and affordable energy to the once undeserved homes, villages, and communities nationwide. Solar energy adoption has revolutionized energy access across India, particularly in remote and underserved regions. It has provided reliable electricity for lighting, cooking, and powering essential appliances, where traditional grid infrastructure was once inadequate. Consequently, India's renewable success story that you all now hear of are growing investments in clean energy, which are it's a very popular topic nowadays if you look at the media. And the developmental impacts are viewed as global developmental case studies. And that's something that we are quite happy about. As far as ISA's role is concerned, if you look at how ISA and India's energy vision are intertwined, founded by India and co-founded by India and France, ISA exemplifies our commitment to sustainable development and inclusive growth, facilitating partnerships between developed and developing countries. The ISA plays a crucial role in taking India's vision of equity and growth to the global south. India's leadership within ISA exemplifies our commitment to driving a global energy transition. As a founding member, India actively supports ISA's initiatives through technical expertise, capacity building programs, and policy advocacy, reinforcing our role as a responsible global stakeholder. The ISA is uniting state and non-state actors across Asia, Africa, and other regions for the common goal of unlocking solar potential and promoting clean energy transitions worldwide. ISA's collaborative approach highlights the importance of multilateral cooperation in addressing global energy challenges. ISA's treaty-making process exemplifies our nation's commitment to innovative economic diplomacy. It strategically engages solar-rich developing nations while attracting investment from developed countries and private sectors keen on accessing untapped solar markets, thereby ensuring global energy security and sustainable development. Dr. Mathur talked about 4 key stakeholders that we are trying to bring to the table in the International Solar Festival. At least the discussions have to be surrounded around these 4 stakeholders. As far as the youth are concerned, India's youth are playing an active role in our journey to a greener future. I think if you look at the way we look at how India's solar energy or green energy is growing, I think youth are playing one of the biggest roles. Through skilling, job creation, and inclusive education opportunities, India's youth are being empowered to join the green workforce. Our youth are our demographic dividend. They will be playing a front and central role in creating a sustainable future and must be suitably engaged. Their voices must be heard. As far as women are concerned, solar initiatives have significantly enhanced women's health and economic prospects by reducing reliance on traditional polluting cooking methods and solar-led job creation. In fact, if you saw that a big portion of the workforce in renewables is in solar. Women in rural areas have entered a better life. Solar projects are empowering women economically by creating opportunities for entrepreneurship and employment in the renewable energy sector. In fact, MNRE is spearheading one study. We are promoting that, of understanding the role of women in renewable energy sector and understanding that and calculating that and keeping a collation of that data, because earlier we never had this data. We have a study going on, which we already have a preliminary report, which was published earlier this year, and now we hope to get a much more comprehensive report sometime later this year. And we will continue to do that because we feel that gender equity is important for the sector, and in fact, there are few manufacturing plants actually which are coming up, which are going to engage almost entirely, the entire workforce is going to be comprised of women, and that is something which is quite unique. So as far as the women are concerned, we must ensure that the perspectives reflect in policy making and community action. That is why we are engaging them as a stakeholder and one of the key stakeholders for the International Solar Festival, which we are organizing. Communities. Dr. Mathur talked about why this is important. Community-led solar initiatives under the Government of India's flagship programs have empowered local communities by granting ownership and control over energy resources. These projects have fostered self-reliance and sustainability. These programs have placed energy decision-making in the hands of rural India, encouraging a sense of responsibility. India's communities are key stakeholders to give scale and reach to the energy transition and ensure that it is just and inclusive. As far as the private sector is concerned, I engage quite actively in the private sector because all our projects are actually implemented by the private sector. We wouldn't be here where we are today in India's renewable energy if the private sector had not played such a big role. The widespread adoption of solar energy has catalyzed the growth of social enterprises nationwide. India's supportive policy environment has created a vibrant ecosystem of small and medium energy companies that are redefining the energy landscape with groundbreaking solutions. The private sector is leveraging innovative financing mechanisms and public-private partnerships to create a vibrant solar product and service marketplace. To truly accelerate innovation, the role of the private sector must be enhanced so that it can continue to create and launch products that the world needs. And that is why private sector becomes one of the key stakeholders for us to engage with and discuss in the International Solar Festival, which is around the corner. Finally, we recognize the urgent need for a collective global effort to solarize the world's energy needs. The upcoming International Solar Festival in September will further stimulate global efforts toward a cleaner and more equitable energy transition. Together, through shared knowledge and collective action, we can overcome challenges that we feel which are there and which are actually there in many parts of the world and achieve a future where clean energy is accessible to all. India is committed to a leadership role in supporting the global South's energy transition. This transition must be equitable, inclusive, and just, ensuring all countries have access to the technologies and resources that they need to succeed. Thank you to all participants and guests today, all the stakeholders and partners for your dedication to advancing solar energy solutions. Together, we must innovate, collaborate, and empower the communities towards a brighter and cleaner future. I really look forward to welcoming you all in New Delhi, and we'll stand along with ISA in welcoming you to this International Solar Festival, which is around the corner. I look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, sir. May I request you to be on the stage briefly? Request Dr. Mathur to felicitate Mr. Bhalla. Thank you, sir. We will now move to a discussion with a panel on building a solar future together, which will be moderated by Ms. Ankita Mukherjee. Ankita is a seasoned communicator and media consultant who has worked in broadcast journalism for 2 decades. As anchor and deputy executive editor at NDTV, she hosted and produced a variety of news and current affairs shows focusing on pressing citizens' issues, including the effects of climate change. May I request Ankita to come on the stage? And over to you, please.
Good evening, everyone. I can't tell you what an honor and privilege it is to be here this evening and be part of this wonderful curtain raiser event for the International Solar Festival that's scheduled for the 5th and 6th of September this year, organized by the International Solar Alliance. The moment is here. Solar is really having its moment in the sun, if I may. I don't know how many of you got a chance to look at The Economist's cover this week. It's really such a striking image. You have a rising sun peeping out through these dark clouds, and it's illuminating a solar panel. And it talks about how we're at the dawn of the solar age. And that really struck me as a moment that we can really focus on and talk about. Clearly, this is the moment when we're talking about solar as a pivotal solution for, of course, energy needs, but also for climate action. We heard Dr. Mathur already talk about how climate change and its effects are really there for all of us to see. Anyone who's been in Delhi the last month will know all too well what we've been through. And really, this is what the world has come to now. So there's so much to talk about, really. Now is the time, perhaps, to really wonder about what steps we're taking, what collaborations we are forging. And that's something we'd like to talk about, and we have a very special panel to do that. I'd like to invite Saina Nehwal on stage. She's somebody who needs very little introduction. Former world #1 badminton player, an Olympian, and a Padma Bhushan awardee. It's so wonderful to have you with us, Saina. Do please take a seat, and it'll be wonderful to hear from you this evening. We're also being joined by a young, dare I say, climate change influencer. She's been talking about climate issues, about sustainability. Arushi Sana is official ambassador to COP28, youth influencer and ambassador to COP28. Arushi, it'll be wonderful to get your perspective on how young people are at the forefront of this energy transition. So please, if we can have you up on stage as well. And of course, the Director General of the International Solar Organization, Dr. Ajay Mathur, if I may request you to come back on stage as well. If I may kick off with Saina. Saina, you're not just an inspiration for many of us. You're a youth icon. Your voice carries as being one of our inspiring women leaders in a way. And I'd like to hear from you as we begin. Why do you think it's so urgent for all stakeholders, but especially women and the youth, to come forward at this point to take climate action?
First of all, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here. I think it's a very, this question I think will be never ending. Maybe we can just talk about it and about it. But I feel as a player, we like to take actions a little faster. And I don't, when I see the population thing and what is happening in the villages. In fact, my grandma is from a village in UP. And when I was really young, I used to go with my mom to the village, and I used to really see her struggle. Khana kaise banate hain, chulhe mein banayenge. And then she's a farmer, so घर का काम तो पूरा वही करती थी. So it's a little difficult for a women out there for to do all these things. But now with the solar panel and lot of solar cooking and lot of good things happening. In fact, I didn't know 5 years back मेरे पापा ने मुझे बोला था solar panel लगाना है घर पे, and I was like, why? Why you have to do this? But he was like, you'll see in the future how it's going to help us. And I was like, today you see the electricity bill is gone so down, and he's so happy about it. My father is a scientist, he's so happy about it.
So true. And that clearly can be an incentive for people.
Definitely, but
We're all looking at the bottom line.
But in the villas, I can only see my house having it. Why not everyone, Why don't you have that thinking, कि change करना चाहिए? And if it starts from one house and, maybe 2 houses, 3 houses, but थोड़ा difficult होता है. And people like, us, sports person, the youth, the, parents out there should just talk about it. It's not like, सिर्फ sports के बारे में या politics के बारे में बात नहीं करनी चाहिए. We should also talk about कि plastic कितना कम use करना चाहिए. And then it's very, very important that you also, I hate ACs, Gym में भी आप workout कर रहे हो, then sweat it out. Why you need to use AC over there? I know sometimes it's very important, but not like every time, it's not required. And there's lot
Saina,
of
that's
things.
a very important point you're making about, one house maybe has a solar panel or at best 2 in a neighborhood. Why is it that there is not sort of more general adoption? And Dr. Mathur, if I can quickly get you in on that point, how do you see ways in which to make solar energy more affordable, more accessible to everybody, to individual users?
Ultimately, it matters that people should get what they can do. So one of the things that we learn is what Saina was talking about, seeing a solar panel on top. Now, if somebody who sets a solar panel on top, the vendor who did it, if he goes to the neighboring houses and says, I have put it at her house, can I put it on yours? You will find a lot more people who are, so clearly, whether it is cities or states or countries, they need to enable the private sector to be able to take advantage of this as a growth opportunity and use her example to say, I'll also do it.
And it's so important to know that you do have that, and I hope everyone's picked up on that point. Arushi, we heard Saina talk about how important it is for young people to talk about these things, and I really think that young people actually lead from the front when it comes to climate action. Young people are hyper-aware about the planet they're inheriting. I think they know more than all of us, just how challenging and how tough it can be for them. Where do you see the youth perspective coming in terms of sustainability, in terms of taking climate action, specifically solar? If you have any examples, we'd love to hear from you.
First off, I think the fact that the Solar Festival is happening in India is a huge thing because we are the 3rd largest solar power in the world. So it is a matter of great pride and competence for us that we are hosting it. Coming to your question, I think that Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're all very aware, like you said, about climate change. I think there's an overdose of information now that's happening and a little less implementation. So it's important to sort of, educate them on the things that they can do in their countries or in their localities to sort of mitigate the effects. We're not just the generation that's going to be taking this forward, we're also the generation that's having the worst effects. Like we are having it worst actually and the recent heat waves have been, an example of that. So we need to be very aware of the fact that it's not just about being educated, being aware. I think that a lot of the youth today is unfortunately slightly misled. I don't want to take negative examples, but I must say that activism can be a little misleading in today's times. So I think I would encourage the youth to do something more productive rather than constantly raising awareness on issues. Because like I said, the time for awareness was 10 years ago.
Okay, so we have a lot of awareness, but perhaps not enough action. Is that something you would agree with, Dr. Mathur? Because where do we see the youth really come in terms of skilling, in terms of being prepared for green jobs, in terms of being at the forefront? I mean, the young people today are going to be really the leaders of this energy transition in a few years from now. So how do we get them to participate more actively?
Let me give you an example. Last year, this was a question that was raised, And obviously, there are training programs, and at the end of it, they get certificates. They need to see people putting up projects so that they can get jobs. So what we started doing was identifying startups. We started with Africa, and we put up a portal where anybody could apply. We thought it would be difficult to get 100 applications. We got 180. Believe you me, it was very difficult to cull it down to 20, which is the number that we could handle for bootstrapping them on raising money, on technological cooperation, and on brand building. Listen, we want these guys to be the Amazons of tomorrow. And if they are the Amazons of tomorrow, they can be the people who bring solar to your roof and your neighbor's roof. In other words, with the right skills and the right opportunities, raising money
What
technology.
are the barriers now?
So the barriers largely are two. One is, who do I work with? And second, where am I going to get the finances from? As was rightly said, it's not about information. There's adequate amount of information. People know these areas. It is helping them get to action.
Saina, I'd like to hear a little more from you about how you think women can take a leading role. We've already heard a little bit about how, particularly in solar, we have a workforce that is over 40% women. But do you also believe that women can play leadership roles here? How do you see that happening?
Why not? I think it's just mentally sometimes we feel shayad humse nahi ho payega, or we just get little scared, maybe it's not possible, but why not? When I can become world number 1 in my sport, why not? It's just that you have to think, how can we make changes? And as I said, you can go and ask so many ladies in the villages, or meri mummy se bhi ghar mein pooch sakte hain कि what all we can change. We can take their ideas. How can it can help a lot of other people in the future. Abhi to we are enjoying our life. It's going perfectly all right. But what about 50 years later? How are we going to survive? In fact, I've got sinusitis because of the allergies. Traveling so much throughout the world, and the weather changes, pollution, it is going to happen a lot more. And I see a lot of young kids moving to Canada.
This is such a reality in all our lives in so many ways.
Yeah, so many young girls moving to Canada, badminton players, because they feel either hame asthma ho raha hai, ya, we are getting sinus issues, so they're moving to Canada. I'm like, why are you doing that? But there's like, we have these issues.
To pick up on a very important point you've made, Saina, particularly in our villages, the changeover to solar energy could make such a visible difference in so many lives, particularly in underserved communities. Arushi, what is your experience of having actively worked with communities for sustainable climate action?
I keep hearing that women are sort of facing the consequences of climate action, climate change the most. But I have to say, like we spoke earlier, that we need to stop looking at women as victims and start looking at them as problem solvers. Because today they're leading at the forefront in every field possible, whether it's building solar tech, so like engineers, whether it's marketing it, sales teams, driving change at community levels by encouraging the entire neighborhood to take up solar panels if it is affordable, becoming diplomats, representing the country at international forums, and then forging relationships that can drive the entire solar ecosystem or the sustainable development ecosystem in multiple countries. So given that they have the power to make change, I think the world has come a long way in giving them access to these kind of opportunities. Of course, we have a long way to go, but it's great to see that today even younger women and middle-aged women are becoming a very large part. And the fact that we have 3 women on the stage right now is proof that, things have come a long way now.
You need to say I'm the token man?
No, sir, not at all.
Dr. Mathur, would you agree with that? And we'd like to hear your perspectives of where you've seen key initiatives involving women actually turn out to be big success stories.
Many, many years ago, we started a program of empowering rural women to be entrepreneurs providing solar services such as solar charging. We trained about 8,000 people who were entrepreneurs, both men and women. Today, 3,500 people are still there. Of those, 2,800 are women. This leads me to two things. One, of course, is that the perseverance of women in staying with their jobs is much higher. But the second is also probably that the kinds of things that they do in this energy sector are the kinds of things that are needed by their neighbors, the kinds of things that they can do, they can bring. And together, this creates a revolution. It helps ignite the power. So I'll give you an example. Listen, all said and done, a very large number of decisions in households are made by men because they are the income earners. The fact that a woman becomes an income earner also means that she can buy a solar cooker. To me, this is change happening at a large scale.
And I think historically, women have also been the recyclers, the upcyclers, the ones who have made the most of very scarce resources. Saina, do you see that as something, you were talking about your grandmother earlier and the way in which she's had to sort of deal with things. Do you see women as victims or as leaders and those who can lead from the forefront?
No, I don't see them as victims, but I see them really, really strong women because they work from morning to night and they don't even complain about anything. They're just so, or maybe they don't want to show it, or I don't know, because that time I was really young and I was just watching all this. But after going through all these things, and I've worked really hard on code, but I've seen my mom doing the household work, then running around with me, and then being everywhere. So we can do anything possible. It's just that, it's a little bit of ideas which we require, and together, all the, like how you said, ladies can come together and make a program.
And that really brings in the community angle, which Dr. Mathur, you already focused on a little bit. But if you could just quickly expand on that for us, historically underserved communities, how do you see them as being part of this collaborative process?
How is electricity taken to places which you don't have electricity? Typically by extending the grid. You take the line, you extend it, and you provide connections to any home which can pay or which meets certain criteria, whatever it is. Solar does it very differently. For example, a solar and battery system may be set up in a village. And typically, most of these people use a solar tower as the anchor load. But then they have to sell electricity. If they have to sell electricity, obviously a relationship with the community is needed. The community benefits by it. Let me give you another example, a solar health system. Today, if you go to the northeast part of India, almost all, nearly 100% of primary health centers are powered by solar. This has largely occurred because one organization, the Selco Foundation, pushed it, but it has also occurred because the state governments realized that if they don't go to solar, there was no way that they could, number one, freeze the vaccines, maintain the cold chain. Number two, provide first aid to people, particularly women in childbirth during night hours. So solar completely changed the way in which they were providing services. It is these kinds of interventions which help us move ahead in a large scale.
That's absolutely fantastic to know about. Arushi, what do you see the role of youth in an international solar festival? Is it just going to be about skilling? Is it going to be about putting the message across for advocacy later on? What is it that you would hope for from a festival of this nature?
I I think, so I always talk about the 4P policy when it comes to sustainable development and youth involvement. The 4Ps that I see are policy, planet, profit, and people. So if the youth can understand that a synergy of all 4 of them is what's going to make sustainable development a successful reality in the world, then I think half the problem there is solved. The youth needs to, so I think they should get, when I started my computer science engineering degree, so it was just one stream, right? Just computer science engineering. But today, we have an undergraduation specialization in data analytics, artificial intelligence, where you're doing it for 4 years. So I think that we need those kind of courses when it comes to children picking up environmental engineering as a degree or as a course. So if they can voice for such kind of requirements, take up these courses, study it professionally, and then also take industry experience, whether it's through internships or whether it's through their regular jobs. And that has to sort of create an employment ecosystem in the world, because I think green energy is obviously the way to go, but we still have to bridge the gap between academia and events like these, platforms like the ISA, and the future of employment.
Is that something you would agree with in
I
terms of...
completely agree
Yes.
with that. Any skilling which does not involve people getting jobs at the
Jobs.
end of it is useless.
Or create entrepreneurs?
Many years, or create entrepreneurs. Many years ago, I was associated with the Indian Bureau of Energy Efficiency. We did exams to create energy auditors. But we were late in making energy audits mandatory. As a result, we had something like 7,000 auditors with nothing to do. They obviously pushed back and accelerated the process through which we made energy audits mandatory so that they could get jobs. Listen, people want that they use the skills that they are provided with. We need to make this good. On the one hand, certify that they are well-trained, and on the other hand, create the projects which do the jobs in which they can be employed.
Saina, if you had a message for the International Solar Festival, what would that be?
I just want to say that why not, educate about it more, and why not, like in Instagram, you see a lot of stupid stuff happening. Why not educate about this a lot more? And then the young ones...
How would you use Instagram to do that? And how would you sort of involve sports as well as social media to do that?
Because a lot of youngsters follow me, they want to become like me, and even if I spread the, these things, today I got to know what Sir was saying, she was saying, actually I got to know what is the reality and how difficult it is. Unfortunately, we don't have BCCI here to, give a lot of money and push it, but, maybe I can, start from today, I can just, in any of my messages, whenever I'm sitting out there, and start talking about how to, first of all, in every house you need a solar panel, for sure. Start with it, because my father did it, I want to start with that. And I want to just tell them about use less plastic bottles. We being players, I won't deny it, we get a lot of plastic bottles in the matches. It is bad actually, but kya kare, wo time pe to we need it over there. But how to use it less, maybe I can ask them their opinions about it, and maybe I can share a little bit about
Wonderful.
that. And lot of
So we've had the ice bucket challenge and so on. Dr. Mathur, what do you think a solar challenge could be?
Very simply, ask people how in their own lives they can maximize the use of solar energy and minimize, if not completely make zero, the use of any other sort of energy.
Right. Thank you very much indeed, all of you, for providing us with all these perspectives. This is just a teaser, a taste of what's to come in the International Solar Festival coming up on the 5th and 6th of September. Of course, we will need all your support and active participation in the weeks and months ahead to make that event a grand success. It's time to keep talking about solar. Yes, a quick last word from Arushi. Do go ahead.
I just wanted to add that the Government of India recently launched the Pradhan Mantri Suryodaya Yojana, which is a solar subsidy scheme. So today, like I had a misconception that solar panels are very expensive. We recently installed one in our home, and we found out that we're getting about 40 to 50% of a subsidy on that panel. So finally, it is also becoming accessible for the upper middle class and above. So I think that, like adding on to what Sir said, if we can afford it, then we should definitely look at installing them in our homes, at least now that it's become affordable.
Well, we've certainly talked a lot about sort of individual adoptions, but it goes so much further than that, and there is so much to talk about and continue to talk about, so we will, of course, be doing that. But thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Ankita, Arushi, Saina, Dr. Mathur. May I request Dr. Mathur to felicitate the guests, please. Thank you. This brings us to the end of our curtain raiser event. We are grateful for your presence and participation this evening. Please join us for dinner. Thank you.